Hi, and welcome to this Meet and Geek session. My name is Matt. I'm going to give you three names: Evil Corp, Dark Side, Spectre. Can you guess which one of those three is a James Bond villain? Only one of them is. The other two happen to be hacker groups. They specialize in ransomware attacks. They've been attacking businesses, educational institutions, and during the pandemic, even remote workers. Earlier this year, CNA Insurance was held hostage, and more recently, Colonial Pipeline was held for ransom and actually paid out $4.4 million to recover their system. So it got me thinking. There have to be ways of mitigating ransomware attacks. And so during my research, I came across a company that is coming to America. They are called Actiphy. And today I am joined by Robert from Actiphy. He's going to introduce us to the company and tell us about their flagship product. How you doing today, Robert?
I'm doing fine, Matt. How about you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So tell me, who is Actiphy?
Actiphy. Okay. Actiphy is a company based out of Japan. Did you need a little more information than that?
I need a little more information than that. Yeah.
I'd be happy to give you that information, Matt. Actiphy. Well, let me give you a little bit of background. First off, they are coming to America not because they're brand new, but they are just expanding at this point in time.
Okay.
Actiphy started actually back in 1996, so they are not a brand new startup. They were established under the name of Net Japan. So that was Net Japan Incorporated. And initially as Net Japan, they would offer localized services in Japan, computer services, and they were also distributors of Japanese versions of really innovative international products. Well, for back then, yeah, they were really innovative products, but mostly software-based disk utilities to recover files and to, examine the disk for damage, etc. But it was all software based. Right. And in 2008, roughly a while ago, a few years ago, they changed their business model. They decided to get out of the distribution business and go straight to becoming a software publisher. And at that point in time, they introduced their flagship product, ActiveImage Protector. And so at that time, it was Net Japan's ActiveImage Protector. But as of July of 2020, last July, they changed their name from Net Japan to Actiphy.
So
and that's where we're at now. Why? Oh,
yeah. Why the name change? Why the name change?
Well, honestly, since 2008, they have expanded somewhat globally. Obviously, they have a really large presence in the Asian Pacific market. But they've expanded through partnerships and distributor partnerships. They've expanded. They would like to basically become a complete global presence. Right now, they have a semi-global presence, half it, but they changed their name partly because as they've expanded, they've expanded the brand recognition for ActiveImage Protector, but they wanted to have something a little bit more for universal branding, better recognition, so to speak. So they changed the name to Actiphy. ActiveImage Protector goes without saying in those circles, but now that it's Actiphy, there's a relationship there. So in terms of phonetics.
So you said that there is global expansion taking place. What markets can we find Actiphy?
Right now, obviously, APAC, Japan, Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, the Philippines, and India. Okay. That covers Asia. In Europe, where they've expanded to as well, include Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Italy, and the UK. And at that point, it was a good idea to go ahead, jump the pond, and expand into North America.
Okay. So let's get to the flagship product, ActiveImage Protector. What is that?
Well, the tagline would go as, if this was a movie, the tagline would be a high-performance backup and disaster recovery solution. And I think solution is the key word here. That's the flagship product. And when I say solution, I mean it's not just a basic backup and recovery. Anybody can say that. but as far as being just a product or a utility, it's a solution. And as we get deeper into this conversation, I'll explain why it's geared more as a solution rather than just a basic product. It's got so many other things going for it.
Well, let's not go deeper. Let's tackle it now. What does ActiveImage Protector do for me?
Well, what it does for you, the end user, the desktop user, it safely and quickly and securely backs up your entire system. And when I say your entire system, I don't mean it's limited to just the data or the files on the system. We're talking about the operating system, any credential information, login information, all the applications that are already installed. So that's one part of it, which makes it a complete solution, because it does back up safely and securely, verifies the integrity of your entire system. Some you want to dig deep, some of the features and options that come to mind right now, and some of this may go over your head because it's kind of technical, but I'll give you a brief explanation for it. The smart sector technology, which detects what sectors are occupied by data, where there is data. Doesn't make any sense to back up the blank space of the hard disk. So only where there's data. So right there, you're saving space with the consequent backup image file that's created. Data deduplication, another reason why the files are small. You enable data deduplication. Any redundant data is basically left out with a pointer saying, when we restore, grab that file and put it here. So fill that sector with this information on a restore. Takes advantage of these new CPUs with all the multi-core CPUs, takes advantage of CPU usage with our pipeline technology, which makes the backup process a lot more efficient, and it has less impact on your day-to-day workings when you're running stuff. So it's running in the background while doing a backup if you set it to do that. Military-grade encryption, which is a big deal these days. You mentioned a couple of evil corp and some ransomware types that nefarious types that like to take and hold data hostage, so to speak. And with military grade encryption, the backup image file is essentially impenetrable unless you know the passwords. In fact, you're not going to get a password from us. That's how impenetrable it is. That's something you're going to need to keep. There's no way for us. It's not like it's an iPhone where we're going to figure out a way to get in. So you can, with 128 or 256-bit encryption, again, that's probably a lot more important if you're running a business and that data needs to be secure from outside hand. We also have a couple of utilities that probably don't apply to the home desktop user. Is a backup isolation feature in which we cut all access off to the file once we back it up. So anything that permeates through won't, in fact, or can get to that backup image file. We also have a feature, aside from verifying the integrity that your backup is good, we have a feature that checks bootability. And when I mean bootability, if you go and restore your entire system because maybe you have to replace the hard drive and it crashes, you can check whether or not it'll start up without actually having to restore it and then finding out it doesn't or finding out it does. So it checks the bootability and making sure. And again, there may be symptoms that are telling you the drive is going, which means your system files may be going as well too. And I mean, I'm sure it's happened before where you turn it on and there's a missing operating system. You're like, well, it was just working a minute ago. And one last thing for geared more towards businesses that use virtual servers. And when I say a virtual host, and what I mean by that, without getting into the minutia, is essentially you're using a single server to actually host different servers within itself. And that's a concept hard to wrap your head around if you're not in it all day or have been working with virtual machines in the past. But it's definitely a convenience. But we do have a standby feature a virtual standby feature in which it will create a replica of a live server that you may have running and place it in one of these hosts, but it's dormant and it's not running, but it's constantly getting updated with machines. So this is a relatively inexpensive sort of a switchover, or I can't call it a failover because that's a whole different definition. But if something happens to that main server, you can switch over to this one in the virtual or the host that's hosting virtual machines and get it up and running in minutes, so that nobody skips a beat and you're not losing any business continuity.
So those features, the terms sound fairly technical. So is ActiveImage Protector really designed for an IT director of a large enterprise-sized business?
Well, yes. I mean, it's not just for an IT director who's running an entire IT department that is enterprise level and all over the country. We have additions for the home user, home desktop user, to small mom and pop businesses that run basically one server and may have a small local area network in which they require backing up of everyone's systems as well, to medium businesses that may have multiple locations in a region, all the way up to enterprise level corporations. Now, I touched that Actiphy is already expanding, through Asia Pacific and through Europe and such. And they already have an install base in which manufacturers, utility companies, medical institutions, education, and government institutions as well have implemented our solution as part of their backup plan. So
So you named a number of consumers from high level, enterprise level, all the way down to the mom and pop shop. So that strikes me as there are probably varying operating systems at work here. So what are the operating system requirements for ActiveImage Protector? Well,
we support any Windows or Linux desktop or server editions that are out there. So that being said, Microsoft's recently stopped their support of Windows 7. We still work with Windows 7. You're just not going to get any updates from Microsoft. So we stay current with all the new servers and the specific editions of these servers as well. I did mention virtualization or virtual servers or servers that host virtual machines. The word virtual is what's key here. Microsoft has a version of their server that it's called Hyper-V, in which it's built for specifically creating virtual machines and keeping them on a single host. And with vStandby, you can use it to keep a machine there. But it's not just limited to Microsoft Hyper-V. Other hypervisors that we do support are from VMware as well. And there's one that, home geeks like to play with, and some businesses actually use it to implement because it's free, dirt cheap. It's called VirtualBox. So, two ways to, and let me just say this real quick, that trying to get some information in that won't blow everyone away, but two ways is backing up the entire host with all the virtual machines in it, in a Hyper-V environment. It's nice that you can restore just single virtual machines that break down. Or with a virtual edition of ActiveImage Protector, you're licensed to just install ActiveImage Protector individually on each of those virtual machines in that host. So you have two ways to do it, depending on how big. For the base, it might behoove them to back up the entire host because you have the flexibility of restoring a single virtual machine at a time if need be.
So that brings up a bunch of questions now.
Okay, hit me.
I like to save. I like to save video copies of recipes, and I just move them from my laptop to an external hard drive that's connected via USB. What's the difference between that and what ActiveImage Protector does?
I'm glad you asked that question. What you do is a file backup, or maybe even just a file copy, because in your mind, you don't want to lose these recipes, right, or your documents or your spreadsheets or your household billing ledger. Again, we expand more into a small business or a medium business or enterprise level. There's constantly transactional data going on, so it's a good idea to back up the entire system. With what you do, anticipating that maybe your machine gets some corruption, your hard drive gets corruption, and you lose some files, and you think, oh, how do I get those back? Oh, I've got a backup. I'll just plug in my USB drive, and from there, I'll just pick and choose whatever I want to bring back, whether it's recipes, documents, cat videos, and you can bring them back on your hard drive. With ActiveImage Protector, again, as I said before, it's your entire system. But, and I know where you're going with this, you say, how am I going to get individual files back? I mean, you're backing up an entire thing. I don't want to rebuild the house. I just want to get some of the things that maybe got burned out or shorted out replaced with what I have. So, not a great analogy, but you know what I'm saying.
I know what you mean.
Okay, yes. So again, let's go back to the word solution. A backup and recovery solution. It's built into ActiveImage Protector that you can perform a granular file restore. That's just a fancy way of saying you can get the backup image file mounted and viewed as a drive through your file manager. Okay. And then you can read it because you know the structure of everything you have, and you just go into, household documents, billing, accounting, resumes, whatever folder you can go and then get whatever that you lost off that hard drive and actually literally copy it out and put it back on your hard drive. And not only that, yes, there's more. Wait, there's more. You can modify that document and update it because that's how you discovered it's dead or gone or corrupted. And you can actually copy it back into the backup, and it's updated, and that is recorded. So the next time, if ever you have to do a full restore, you're going to get the latest version of that document with your changes. So,
all right. So you mentioned a couple of virtual offsite storage locations. What about a cloud service? If I choose,
if you have a cloud, if you have a cloud service, sorry to step on you, but if you have a cloud service, you can create a backup and then create a task so that it copies, or in this case, replicates that backup to your cloud service. Okay. Now, there are a number of cloud services that we support. You can go in and configure for specific cloud services that we already have, that we've tested, that work. Mm-hmm. But again, you can replicate not just the cloud services, but to other sites. Now, let's put you in your office that you've created, and you actually have a physical brick and mortar location because you're running a service or a repair place or a dry cleaners. That'd be a small business. You may do engraving. There are so many things, consultants, everything you can do. And you have a server there. However, who's to say that the small restaurant next door has a grease fire that goes through the entire building? And there goes your backup right there. That's something you can't control because there's something else going on. A fire starts and it goes through the entire building, depending on where you are. And suddenly your office is damaged and your server room has been burnt to a crisp. Well, you think, how am I going to get going again? Well, the easiest thing in the world to do is to find a temporary location and get your workers back online. But wait, all the servers down. and the backup was sitting in a server next to that, or it was sitting on the network. And now, but you thought ahead and you replicated that backup image file either up to the cloud service, or maybe you had an FTP site that you're renting or paying for another offsite data center that you might be using that you can actually access because you actually replicated that backup image file. Not only that, if you take other backups like incremental backups, they're smaller, they're associated with a big backup. You can grab a point in time and restore that as well. So yeah, it's important. It's paramount that you keep more than one copy of your backup image file, and it's even better if you never know what happens. You have to be prepared for something so that you can restore or recover using that backup image file that you're getting from somewhere else because it's not in the place. It's been damaged because it was somewhere where it wasn't protected as well as it could have been.
So for those folks that are listening that may not be quite as tech savvy, what are some of the more popular or more well-known cloud services that you support?
What we support in addition to, and again, here we are after, it's not the desktop people, but there are guys out there, guys and girls out there that have turned their home into a home network as well.
Yeah.
And they may be running a backup server or some storage. They may have a network attached storage that they invested in with several drives, but that's typical for a business. That's typical for a business from small to medium to large. You're going to have multiple destinations that are strictly configured for storage. Or you may just have another server that does a certain specific job and has a purpose, but you've connected extra drives into it specifically for getting backing up files too. So again, if you have an FTP site through your ISP, or you have a network shared folder, or you can communicate with your secondary office that's across town on the north side, and they have a server there, you've probably configured something where you can access that drive as well and send the backups there. Some of the cloud services that we support, well, I'll just run it down. Amazon S3, Azure, OneDrive, Dropbox, and a Google Drive, which is everywhere. I honestly, I don't know that I know anyone that doesn't have a Gmail address. So yeah, those are offsites that you can replicate your backup image file to in the event that something happens to your primary storage destination.
So in my dry cleaning business, the restaurant next door happens to catch fire and knocks my business out, or let's say I am overrun by a swarm of locusts. Those are natural disasters. Those are natural disasters that are happening. At the beginning, I mentioned probably the most frightening man-made disaster out there right now, and that's a ransomware attack. If CNA, Insurance, or Colonial Pipeline had ActiveImage Protector in place, would they have been able to mitigate the damage that was done?
Well, I understand that at least Colonial Pipeline had a backup in place because they're spending a lot of time restoring and making sure. I'm not there, so I'm not privy to what's going on. That being said, yes, ActiveImage Protector would be an excellent choice at having a plan for a solid backup plan that would help mitigate. Actually, it safeguards against ransomware. Okay. And that's probably the best plan. No, that is the best plan to combat ransomware. That way, I understand Colonial Penn, not to get off subject here, but they paid a ransom.
Right, they did.
And if somebody is nefarious enough to just take your data hostage and your information and demand a ransom, well, then they're too nefarious, because at that point in time, it's this whole incident has given those guys a really bad name, because now all someone has to say is, no, we're not going to pay your ransom. You know why? because your friends over there who took our data hostage gave us a decryption key and it doesn't work.
Right.
So why should we pay you a ransom for
Right.
something? We're just going to wing it on our own. And because we use ActiveImage Protector and we have a solid backup plan in place, and we will be able to, because you have not infected those backup image files through isolation, or because we keep them off site so you can't get to them there, we're going to just restore. And then we're going to take a good hard look as to how it got in and make sure it doesn't happen again, but you're not going to get a cent from us. So yes, a good solid backup plan may put you behind, but if you're scheduling backup tasks and incremental tasks to keep everything up to date, then you know what kind of damage you're going to have and how far back you are. But that's a lot better than not getting everything back at all.
Earlier, you listed some of the features that ActiveImage Protector has. Can you point to one or two that sets your solution apart from the rest of the field?
Well, one thing is the backup isolation, where you take your backup image and you're putting it on a storage device, and then you're cutting access off completely. So what that means is that no nefarious software is going to come in. Well, software is not nefarious, but you know what I'm saying. Yes, malicious software. No malicious software. Yeah, no malicious software is going to go in and permeate and try to get through that locked door, so to speak. So that's one way of getting protected. But you're also creating redundant files by using replication. And you're replicating to offsite locations that, honestly, this malware is not going to permeate to, because it's not something you're accessing regularly. So if it's a local backup, you can cut and isolate that backup image file locally. Secondly, if you replicate to an offsite location, you're only accessing it when you're doing a backup. So you can't, you're protecting all those redundant copies, those clones, replicas, or whatever you want to call it, the replication files offsite. Okay.
I hear birds in the background. It sounds like you are in the cloud. We only have a few minutes left.
Trying to get oxygen.
But for anybody that is interested in trying out ActiveImage Protector, can they take it for a test spin?
Yes. In fact, I'm showing you a slide now.
Okay.
On how to access, just go to Actiphy.com and you'll be redirected. Whatever country you're in, wherever you're listening from, it will automatically take you to that language portal or website. And at that, you can just download and try. Download a 30-day trial version. You can evaluate it. It does not activate until you put in the activation key that you'll receive via email. So that's when your 30 days starts. But if it turns out you went ahead and jumped the gun and activated it and got pulled off for some other project, and you're going to need an additional 30 days, we can extend that another 30 days to give you more time to evaluate. I just want you to take a look at it and look at all the options and features that are available that solidifies your backup plan, so you don't have to pay a ransom to get your data back should you ever be compromised. And if you want to just give us a call and ask some questions, we have a phone number right there. Or you can email us at global-sales at actify.com. And since you brought up, surprise, surprise, you brought up the whole ransomware, I've got some links here that are very, very informative, which explain some of the best practices, has suggestions, and verifies what I've been saying. The best way to safeguard against ransomware is a good solid backup plan, and you get that with ActiveImage Protector.
Right. Okay. I know that some people may not have had a chance to check in today, or those that did might want to share this. Can we place a recording of this cast on your website as well?
Yes, we can, and we will.
Okay.
There'll be a recording of this webcast on there, and again, it's a very informative website. You download, check it out.
And can we invite you back in the future to maybe go over some of the features in more detail?
I'd be glad to. In fact, I'd like to just do a series in which
Okay.
we will go from installation to configuration and explain the utilities that are free that come with ActiveImage Protector.
Excellent. All right. I think that wraps everything up for this Meet and Geek session. Robert, thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. So, like I said, that wraps things up. So until next time, my name is Matt. Take care.
My name is Robert. Thanks for having me again. Bye.
Bye-bye.